Welcome back, everyone. This is TopstepTV London session. I see some people are confused about the times and everything, and trust me, everybody's confused. This is a weird week where the US has not done the whole clock change yet, but the UK has, which is why we have this disparity for this week only, and then once the US changes their clocks back, we're going to go back to our normal time, which is 9:30 a.m. In London. I do have a platinum trade going, but before that, if you're here for the first time and you just sort of randomly stumbled onto this live stream, welcome. My name is Deeyana Angelo. I've been trading for 17 years, and 12 years out of that I've been trading futures, mainly specializing in crude oil and precious metals. I have been trading precious metals a lot more recently, so this is pretty cool. I have a little platinum trade going that I'm going to break down now. It's sort of a bit of a correlation trade with gold. So I'm going to go over those. Now I'm going to make my screen split so that I can show you why I was thinking about this. These are levels from yesterday, and that's not going to be exactly correct. So London high for gold is 27.50 for the value area. Just going to move that here. Yes, Bruno, I remembered this time around to put the full screen on. Yay, I'm learning, right? Okay, where's the average session London low? Just using my other charting indicators to drag some of these levels out. So average session low 27.53. Okay, so that's a little bit higher. And then we have this former call resistance in gold, which was really the reason for this trade. So there is definitely a correlation between platinum and between gold. Sometimes if gold starts doing something, platinum will get pulled alongside with it. So one thing that I did see out of all the levels that I look at is that there was a former call resistance area in gold at 27.60. As soon as we got there, I could see on the tape there was some buyers stepping in, but at the same time, I didn't really like the location of gold. But I did like the location of platinum. So that's what I'm doing here. And so far it's going pretty well. I might even just take it as a base hit of these 40 ticks that I've got available now. And just be done with it as, a bit of a buffer on the day. That's always good for our mental side of things. But obviously the problems arise when that first trade doesn't really go very well, and then you start sort of battling yourself. So I'm going to take this with the commissions and all of that. It's 358 net. That brings this particular account to just over 5 grand. So it's going pretty well. Now the thing with XFAs and live accounts, whenever you have some, decent buffer in there, they do tend to transfer that over into live. So just wanted to give you a heads up that if at some point that happens, that's what's going on, right? So you will see a time when some of the XFAs disappear, and it's because some of that is being transferred to live. I saw some people freaking out over that happening to Dakota and Rips, and everyone say, where are your XFAs and stuff. So just know that that is something that the risk team will do as soon as you have ballpark about 10K in those accounts. Because they want you to be in the live. If you're already a live trader, they want you to have that focus in the live. Now, yesterday, I had another base hit in this account, but I had a really good day in my live. And right now, we're kind of sitting on this sort of stats. So yesterday, this says 13 trades. It's not quite like that. It was more like 4 trades that I scaled in and out. Mainly it was platinum. Tried a copper trade and decided to pull out of that because it wasn't doing what I expected it to do. And in the end, I decided to call it a day at $245 a day. But then I focused on my live account, had 2 awesome platinum trades, which meant that I made 1,228 in my live account. You could have heard that if you were watching Ben on Shoulder Tap. And now we're sitting at, a little bit of another trade here. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, I've got to say, this is out of my statistical averages, okay? So I do expect that I'm going to have a losing day at some point. This is great. It means that my mental side of things is doing pretty well, and I have a tight lid on it. But we're human, right? Nobody can sustain, unless you're like Dilesh or someone, right? Don't know what that guy's doing, but he keeps averaging, what is it, like $8 a day or something. However, he's been going for like, what is it, 70 days now, and that's something to, something to definitely be curious about. It's like he's got something that is enabling him to end up positive every single day over the last, nearly 2 months, right? So it's crazy. Dave's Part Life says, my girlfriend is copying you with the pink Barbie charts. Yeah, so in my regular life, I'm more of a tomboy. I know that I wear makeup and whatever, but I've always gravitated towards things that boys do. I never really played with dolls. I played with, little fire trucks and stuff. And with any dolls that I had, I cut off all of their hair. So read what you want into that. And then obviously my entire career as a musician, I played the sax and electric guitar, which are, traditionally sort of men instruments, right? I never really gravitated towards girly things in life. And similar thing with trading. I find myself pretty comfortable in male-oriented environments because I do have that... anyone who knows me, they'll be like, oh dear, you're like a dude. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. But I think what they're trying to say is that I'm not particularly girly. However, as my eyes are getting a little bit weaker and stuff, I did find that the pink charts, pink sort of things that are screaming at me while I have big lights on, are easier on my eyes, first and foremost, and second of all, I think they're pretty aesthetically pleasing, so we're going to keep with that. Going to stay with the Barbie pink theme. All right, so now that that's over, I need to sort of wipe that trade out of my mind. So we, took a nice base hit there, and now it's time to, maybe sniff around other markets. I'm not itching to take a trade now, because I did already have one. But let's have a look at crude oil. So crude oil, I did have a short yesterday in crude oil in one of the accounts, but didn't trade it in this one because obviously the profits weren't large enough. However, I think I did short towards the end of the settlement, so it was just last kind of half an hour. But it took a while. I was expecting them to show up much earlier, and what I was seeing there is a lot of positive delta. They just kept building, but the price wasn't really advancing any higher, and that usually smells of higher time frame participants that are trying to get everybody long before they smack the price down. And towards the end of the day, we had a pretty sizable sort of flush down right after they made a little bullish engulfing. So that was here. I'm going to make that a bit bigger. So was this, well, let me just find that time of day. Here we go. So this was towards the end of the day. You see how they kind of held this, there was some single prints created during the initial balance of NYMEX in around this area, and they tried to go higher. I was a little bit skeptical because on the larger volume profile, I had a level at 67, what was it, 67, 76. That was kind of the beginning of a big sort of a bigger high volume node. It wasn't super big, but it was enough to stick out on the volume profile. And whenever I'm looking at the volume profiles on those sorts of very, very big time frames, I like to use 4 weeks worth so that I can see what's happened over the 4 weeks. And that gives me a pretty decent idea of where the volume was built up. Now, what is volume? Volume is just an area where they spent a significant amount of time. Thereby, you build structure at those areas, and they represent areas of supply and demand. That's all that is, right? It's not rocket science. It's not like, oh my God, how do you use volume profile? That's all it is, right? You're just looking at areas where the institutions spent more time than usual before moving the price to any new levels. And that's why those areas are very, very useful to us. Now, whether you're an intraday trader, or swing trader, obviously you will have different goals. But for us, anytime you see a little sticky outy area on the profile, that usually tells you that there's some interest there. I'm going to see if I can kind of replicate that on this visible profile as well. But I may need to go quite far back. Maybe go to the daily chart because it's going to allow me to have an even bigger area to look at. Yeah, so if you see this particular area from about 70.10, it's got quite a lot of volume. Now, this is a massive profile, right? So now let's make that a little bit bigger just to take into consideration the most recent developments. Now, that doesn't change all that much. So what this is telling me is that we are underneath these big high volume nodes, and therefore right now there is scope for that gap fill today in crude oil. Now, whether they do it today or tomorrow or by the end of the week, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, just like you guys. But one thing that I can say to you is that whenever we are in a thinner volume area, that tends to move the price quicker. Sometimes they move it through the level, so they keep going, and other times they turn around and they start to go back to these areas of higher volume. So that's where the supply is, that's where resistance, supply, whatever you want to call it, is located. So yeah, some scope for that move than maybe some of you were fishing for yesterday. But having said that, yesterday was a massive gap, and on that same day, statistically, those massive gaps do not tend to fill, and they're very slow to fill. So if you were fishing for that, probably got caught in a bit of a pop that they tried to do and then just ran out of the will to live because it wasn't moving, right? If I go down to a 30-minute chart, you will see that attempt in this area. So this was NYMEX initial balance. Let's mark that. I'm still getting over this ridiculous cold. It's so annoying. Like, I don't know whether it was COVID because I did a test, but nothing showed up. But somehow it's a bit more vicious than your regular cold. All right, so here we go. So this was the initial balance in this yellow rectangle. Tried to go higher, failed, so gave us a fake out, failed auction. And then they tried to do it once again, and that failed too. So, and then they sort of settled in this little range that was like barely 40 ticks. This was very pathetic for crude oil. If we're going to be Yeah, it was like from the top to the bottom of this area, that was like 60 ticks. It's a very tight range. So even if you had an idea that they're not gonna take the move higher, and you're like, right, I'm gonna take this gap, sorry, the range, and use that, that would have been a tough day. Like, I'm happy that I stayed out of that, because that was a tough read. Just basically flat. This is what we mean by barcoding. But as this is happening, so here's where the delta from what Hogue is always referencing can be handy and on some days, not every day. So while they were trying to go higher and failing, I kept seeing the positive delta building, right? So what does that mean? It means that they were trying to get everybody long, so that at some point, this is larger time frame participants stepping into the market, right? And they're going, well, let's try and get everybody long so that we can shake everyone out and go short. So whenever you have positive delta building, and yesterday on crude oil, it was like plus 8,000 at one point, which is a lot. That should tell you something. It should tell you that whoever is buying, there will be short-term traders trying to buy, but the longer-term traders have more power, deeper pockets behind them, and effectively it's a little trick that they play. So they try to get everybody long, and then they shake everybody out, and then you can see that happening right here. Now you can see it happen from VWAP. But it was a nice shakeout right towards the end of NYMEX. Last half hour, that's what they did. Then after that, they went long again into the electronic close. So very interesting. But I do think there is scope for longs today. What are we today? Tuesday. Okay, let's have a look at the economic calendar. We have jolts today. And we have some, okay, so we have BOC, Governor McClam, if that's how you read it, and consumer confidence as well. So those are the USA releases for the day, and nothing much else. So it's a very, very quiet day. I don't know whether the equities are going to have any action in them today. We have elections next week in the US. We have NFP Friday this week. We have FOMC next week. So, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of get stuck in a range in equities and do absolutely nothing. So caution is advised. Now, crude oil, gold, platinum, they're a little bit more sensitive to some of these risk events that we've been having from the Middle East. And I'm going to check my financial juice for that too, just to see whether overnight we had anything of interest. China mulls approving fresh fiscal package with over 10 trillion next week. Interesting. So they're effectively trying to print more money. Yeah. Okay. Anything about oil? Okay, Saudi's energy minister. We are committed to maintaining 12.3 million barrels per day of crude capacity. All right. I mean, they do their own thing, really. Whatever OPEC Plus says, they're like, yeah, we're still going to do whatever we want to do. It's quite funny. Some news from Goldman Sachs. The U.S. economy is showing incredible resilience. I will agree with that statement, actually. And yeah, something about South Korea. So yeah, obviously we remain exposed to some headline risk. Nothing of note here that I can see immediately. But again, yesterday I misread that Israeli thing. I corrected myself in the weekly strategy video on my channel. because, early in the morning, my brain is just not as functional as it is later on in the day. So whenever I'm kind of reading stuff, I need a lot of caffeine to actually start making sense of some of the more complex pieces of information. So yesterday, Dee got up, looked at Financial Juice, and I saw the news that I read as Israel hits oil facilities in Iran. So that's what I read, right? So I was like, why is crude oil down? That doesn't make sense. And then literally 2 coffees later, I reread that statement and I'm like, crude oil facilities were not hit. I'm like, not being the operative word, D. So I'm like, yeah, okay, so crude oil is still, supply is still safe. So that definitely makes sense. Awesome. So yeah, just be careful how you interpret some of those. If you're like me, if you're not that functional in the morning, maybe wait until a bit later, until you're fully awake to look for setups. Let's have a look at some questions here. Somebody's asking me whether I trade Forex. No, I do not. The reason being is that I traded Forex for 5 years in the first literally the first 5 years of my career when I was still an independent trader, before I went into prop. And that was great for 5 years. But then we had European austerity measures in 2012 and everybody just lowered their interest rates, which completely killed momentum in Forex for many, many years. And that's how I got into prop, actually, because I was looking for markets that were moving. Now, if you perceive that something is just not moving for an entire year, you're going to run away from that, right? And that's something that I do actually tell everybody. If you're struggling in the product that you're trading for whatever reason. Some people struggle on NQ a lot, right? Because they keep trying to chase the dopamine rush and they're like, oh, but NQ is so beautiful when it is moving and when it's not smacking you across the face and doing a little boxing match with your emotions. However, anyone who trades for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, at some point you get sick and tired of NQ nonsense. And NQ wasn't always that crazy and wasn't always that whippy. But what's happened since COVID is that we've had a lot of new people stepping into the market, like just retail traders. And that's aiding the liquidity of the entire market. So, it's a good thing because we have, very favorable spreads or zero spreads on a lot of the days. However, the problem with NQ is that it's now so slippy that it effectively can easily slip through levels by 30 to 50 points. So, in ticks, that's a lot of ticks to slip through before it then decides that, yes, we are actually looking at that level. Some of the other products, they only will slip the level by maybe like 10, 20 ticks, maybe 30 ticks, not necessarily points. And that is a lot more acceptable because you can control your risk better. But the problem with NQ is that even when it rewards you a lot, but when it punishes you because you're not able to keep emotional control with all the drama that it brings into your trading, it takes away everything. So you think that you're doing well, maybe you get a couple of payouts, you're like, yeah, this is working, and then one day you lose it, you blow your gasket, and suddenly you're not a funded trader anymore, and you have to start the whole process over again. But because of that dopamine rush that you experience, and because of the speed that you got your profits, you keep going back to it. It's like a junkie that can't get off the needle. You're like, I want more of that. How do I get back to it? So be very careful with the dopamine impact in your trading. I think at this point, I don't really care whether I lose or whether I win, or it just doesn't faze me. If I go on into a drawdown period, I will size down, but it's not like if I have like a bad month or something, I go to sleep crying myself to sleep, or hugging myself in the corner of the room. I just don't care because I've detached my self-worth from any single day or trade outcome. And it's a difficult thing to do because for a lot of people, money is an emotional thing. You perceive it as the ability to change everything in your life. And then when you realize nothing changes when you get there, some people have a bit of an identity crisis. But, I've been fortunate enough to be pretty successful in other ventures that I've pursued. And, because of that, I don't necessarily have the same kind of emotional reaction to money as most people. I have no problem trading 2 micros, but I've also traded very large throughout my career. If you go through some of my live streams from back in whatever it was, 2021, when I was still running daily live streams on my YouTube channel, I traded like 50, 60, 70, 80 lots easy, right? And why? It's because it's all down to the size of the account versus your pain threshold. So obviously if I have a massive account, I can easily absorb 5, 10Ks worth of risk per trade, but not on these accounts, right? Obviously these are much smaller accounts. Yes, sure, we can build them up. But even if you build them up to $250,000, to me, that would still mean trading between 1 and 3 lots. I certainly wouldn't be trading 10 and 15 because I think it's too much risk, right? But I'm a bit more risk averse than most people. So I'm not one of those people that gets to any sort of a drawdown and then, you lose some equity and then you're like, oh, like Ben says it, F it. I'm just going to go back to full positions and whatever happens. No, I'm actually quite the opposite. I size down and I keep sizing down until I get that turnaround in my P&L, and then I start sizing up again. So I work with whatever is in the account, irrespective of any kind of loss limits that they give you, that the prop firm will give you. And, I would advise that you start doing the same thing when it comes to risks. Obviously, it's not a signal service, but I can tell you that most people losing accounts, and the main reason for that is sizing up too quickly or taking out too many payouts and then trading with the same sort of size as if you didn't take a payout. Like, you can't do that. When you take a payout, it means that your equity goes down. So adjust your risk parameters to the equity that remains in the account. Okay, so how do you resolve that there's a large bifurcation between the TPO POC and the volume POC? To me, those two are very, very different, Dave. So POC on the volume profile will be far away from anything really that we're looking at. And if we're close, I might have a look at whether I have a 4-hour supply somewhere around there. Like, for example, if we get all the way up here to 71s in crude oil, this is where the POC is for this visible range. And that's where I want to see if maybe I get a supply, right? But at the same time, if I was anywhere closer to it and I'm running along, I might consider taking profits there. But when it comes to the intraday TPO profile, to me, that has an entirely different function. Like right now, I can see that we're not that far away from TPO volume, from the volume profile. So on an intraday level, to me, this would be a bit of a flimsy outlook. We are close to POC on volume. We're close to VWAP, even though we've kind of tried to turn upside, but there's no momentum in here, like nothing really to speak of. Now, to explain the POC TPO, I know that we're supposed to stay on TopStep, but it makes it extremely difficult for me to actually explain some of these concepts if I can't show you. And we don't, like, presently we don't have TPO profile on TopStep. Once we do have it, I would be more than happy to use that, right? But just for now, I'm gonna go over to my other platform just for a minute. And to make things a bit clearer, so I'm using my backtest mode just to get stuff a little bit more visible. I'm going to change the POC of the TPO to something screamy. Let's do like magenta or something so that everybody can see where the POC is. And there it is, right? So this is yesterday's NYMEX trading. I'm only going to use that. If you notice the range that we were in, like I was explaining before, so you had an attempted move higher and then nothing. So we had single prints here that are visible. If I go further back. So here are the single prints. So we went up, distributed a little bit, went up higher, created single prints. You can see them on this side too. And then we settled right underneath. And then we started building point of control in the middle of this newly established range. Now, would it have been a good trading location if I went long or tried to short from this TPO POC? No, I would have been cut up to pieces, absolute pieces. So to me, POC on the TPO profile is better as a target on range-bound days or some kind of a range. You know, if you go up, then settles in a range. That's what happened with crude oil. You can use the POC that prints intraday as your potential target for little scalps, right? But it's not a good trade location. It's not a good trade location. So for me, TPO, POC, is a very different outlook to volume POC. But if I look at it on an intraday time frame, they will actually be pretty similar, right? And that's, you know, that's another discussion. However, I never really use the volume profile on super tiny time frames, right? I will be using the volume profile primarily to look for larger time frame, high volume nodes, low volume areas, and then try to figure out whether there is any larger move that we can take advantage of. So as you can see, volume POC all the way up here. We don't have anything here. It's actually at 71s. So what does that tell me? It tells me we're below POC. So therefore, maybe we will have that gap fill at some point this week. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But yeah, so very different. Large time frame volume profile, low time frame TPOs. That's how I look at it. Someone says, Dee, the daylight saving is messing with my market timing. I feel you. You know, everyone's in the same boat. Euro close being later than normal. You know, option expiries for us being earlier than normal. All of that puts a wrench in the works. All of that puts a wrench in the works for some of the timings that we like to look at. Don't stress too much about it. There's always the option to sit out this week. You know, I know that we all want to trade like all the time, but if it's messing up your P&L, it's probably not the best choice. So, you know, consider having a bit of a break. Maybe that's the perfect time just to go do something else for a week, you know, go on a retreat, go, I don't know, learn a new hobby. There are ways to stay away from unfavorable market conditions. We don't have to trade every day. We really don't. And if you find that this disparity between UK and USA clock change is messing with you, just, you know, take a break. It's all right. Oliver says, Dee, would be nice if you can help us to look at delta. Is it a standard indicator we can set? No, so it's not a standard indicator. I look at it on Bookmap. I have it as a part of Bookmap, which is not super accurate, but it is accurate enough. Like it won't have exact same numbers that Hogue has got because he pays for it. Now I just pay for a. I mean, I suppose it's not that basic, the book map that I've got. However, I just have it as a cumulative delta. Come on, like this tends to happen every so often. It won't allow me to drag one screen over to the next. So I just have it as cumulative delta on the book map that I run on the other screens. So that's where I can see it. And it's pretty similar to what Hogue does. Now, because if I'm going to look at delta, it's always going to be an extreme of some sort. So it's not like I'm looking at delta like a most minute sort of area. It's like, oh yeah, it's a 3-minute chart. Let's see what delta is doing. So if delta is sort of flat or it doesn't have like thousands in it, I just don't even pay any attention to it. But where it does start to make me interested is if I'm seeing the failure of the perceived movement, like in crude oil yesterday. They tried to go higher, then you just keep getting positive delta, positive delta. You can argue that the same thing is happening now. So we have nearly 7,000 delta already. Have they actually succeeded in taking this much higher? I don't think so. I think they're doing an absolutely pathetic job of it. Now, how do I look at the strength of movement? Okay, so I want to see us first and foremost. What is a successful move? Well, I don't want to see these spiky things. So this is the initial balance for the London session today on crude oil. We still haven't exited it. And look at this mess of a candle, and this one as well. So wick up, wick down, we pretty much go nowhere. Like Asia had better moves than this. Like, what is going on, crude oil? And now they're just building that delta, the positive delta. They're trying to get everybody long. So whenever I see that, and yet they're failing miserably at taking this higher with any commitment, I will be very suspicious of it. I'll be like, well, what's going on there? Like, why are they building delta to the positive side, but we're not getting a committed move? Even if we get some sort of a rally, I would still be very suspicious of it, and I would like to be on the other side if I see that the positive delta keeps building, because at some point, if you don't get a massively trending move out of that much of 7,000 of delta, that's to me a red flag that the longs that we're seeing are being done by the short-term participants, not the other time frame guys who have super deep pockets. Hogue explains this so much better than I do, because I learned about delta from Hogue. So that's his style of trading, and he taught me that, right? So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm some sort of a delta expert. And whenever I'm unclear about something, I do actually reach out to Hogue and I say, hey, what do you reckon about this? I've noticed this happening. Do you think there's any scope for shorts here or for longs if I'm seeing negative delta? Last week, I think we had negative delta building, but again, they weren't actually taking it lower. They were just still being very pathetic with anything. And then at one point, it just popped to the upside to 72. That was the same thing, but vice versa, right? So delta can be very useful in certain situations. You can also have a shakeout move where the delta just goes, is literally just, okay, I'm going to address Benjamin's question there because that's not quite, I don't know what. He's talking about trading view, right? Okay, yes, I will address that because you are right. If you don't have level 2, obviously that's not going to be correct. But yeah, so every time you see, like, let's say we have positive delta now and we see a shakeout move up, but then you get sort of a spike and all of that delta disappears. That means that all of the shorter time frame guys have been spooked now and they're now trying to go short. So you can have that delta flip from positive to negative. in a single sort of 3-minute candle, right? So that's a useful signal too. Pretty sure that Nick for a tick scans for that. And he's very good at catching these minute changes in sentiment. He's a very, very perceptive guy. All right, so let's see some more questions. Will you be looking at gold? Well, I looked at gold and I took that little trade off of the base of bounce from that former core resistance area that is now being back tested, and then we had a nice move from it. However, I expressed that view in platinum because I prefer platinum for this time of day. I think it moves a bit smoother. Okay, so Benjamin has a very good question. He said, I read somewhere that cumulative volume delta on TradingView isn't true CVD as they don't have level 2 order book. Not sure how much of that is true or if it's changed. So first of all, full disclosure, I don't really use TradingView myself. Like I do have it as a subscription because I like to put my mental Q levels on there so that I don't overload my initial charting thing on MetaTrader. But I don't believe that TradingView actually have level 2 data. So you're absolutely correct in that assumption. Now, if you want to look at actual cumulative delta, I'd use it on Bookmap. Now, that's definitely level 2. You can't even have Bookmap without level 2 data because they look at the volume, they look at the order flow, they look at the, every single order that's gone through the exchange, and therefore they can give you a pretty accurate cumulative volume delta. TradingView, do they even have the option to sign up for level 2? I didn't see that anywhere. I mean, again, I don't use it, so I could be wrong. If anybody knows more, please chirp in and tell us. But to my knowledge, I don't think that we have level 2 data. And just by, logical conclusion, if they don't have level 2, any cumulative volume delta that they might spew out, it's probably not going to be accurate. And it's probably going to be candle dependent, right? Rather than the overall cumulative volume from X number of hours or N number of hours. Paul H. Says, what about the 65 level? Yes, if we do go into further downside, I still have that 65 oil level as a level of interest. We still have plenty of space below. If we go to slightly higher time frames, you can see that this whole move came from 65.77. But then if we go further back, here is that turnaround demand. That's where it is, around 65, actually slightly lower. But 65 is a nice round number. And that's also where, some of the put support levels are located. So if we keep slipping downwards, at some point, or maybe not today, but again, you never know. Sometimes crude oil does move 300-400 ticks in a day. Like Hoke says, anything can happen, right? Is delta the same as cumulative volume delta? I think they're pretty similar. I'm not sure whether they're exactly the same, but the way Hogue always talks about his delta reading, and when I look at my Bookmap cumulative volume data, they are very much within like a few hundreds, especially on something like ES. So yeah. When will TopStep add DAX? Whenever we manage to get that post that I keep posting on most days, up to over about 300 people. Right now, whenever I post this, we get like a couple more. So we want DAX, we need to work for it, guys. This is how the feature voting operates. So here we go. You want DAX? Upvote that. You don't need TopStep X, but on that page, it's like a direct link to the feature voting. So you do need to log into like either Google or something. but then you can upvote that post. So if you want DAX, I want DAX, you want DAX, this is how we get it. Christ, I can't even talk. I need more caffeine. Right. Let's just do a little bit of show notes, plugs. So if you want to trade with TopstepTV, we do have a casting call. So Paul H did that, and we had Paul on with myself and Jay, and he was also on another segment. I might see if I can get Paul to come and join me for London sometime. He's a pretty cool guy, pilot, DJ, good trader. So yeah. Can I give my opinion on DAX at the moment? Yeah, sure. Again, because we don't have DAX in TopStep, which is regrettable. I'm going to have to drag my other little platform, so we're not going to stay too long on there. We're opening with a gap up on DAX. So where are we? This is the DAX mini. So let me just have a look here. I have some levels up at 19,770 in DAX that could act as a potential magnet, but I also see some interest right at 19,725. So yeah, I'm not surprised we're in a bit of a chop zone here, because we have some levels of interest that are at like a 20 to 30 tick distance to each other. So I don't really see too much potential for a clean move today. But out of the levels of interest, if we manage to drop all the way down to, let's say, 196.15, that's where we turned around yesterday. That could be a level to look out for any longs for me. And then to the upside, we do have room to go all the way up to that 19,800 level. But right now we're still inside initial balance, still hanging around VWAP. We have not unglued ourselves from VWAP, and we have not popped the IB high or low. So right now, nothing to do. I'm waiting for the IB extension in DAX this morning, and that's probably going to come much later in the day. So I'm probably not going to be having the setup before my 11 o'clock by the slowness or price activity. So some patience is required in DAX today. But yeah, so don't rush. I think we need to wait and see what happens with that bigger gap up that we've seen in relation to the value area open on DAX. That usually means we might have a slow day the next day. So obviously we had a decent day yesterday, and then just a whole bunch of nothing, like chop sideways. So let's see where the other time frame participants want to take this first, and then maybe we can do a trade later. But yeah, I am looking forward to the day that we do have DAX, because that's like a huge chunk of P&L missing out of what I'm doing every day. Has she entered the trade or looking for an entry? Well, do you see my P&L here, dude? Obviously, I did a trade already, but I'm not an over trader, and I'm very selective with my trades. So yes, I did a long platinum trade, and I took 40 ticks out of it, or 37 ticks. And that is my morning trade, my morning base hit. And now we sit and wait until we have a good opportunity, which I'm not seeing anywhere in these products. Patience! Patience is the name of the game. Breathe, man, breathe. We have some profits. We don't want to give them back. Trading is not about clicking buttons. Trading is about doing one trade, chilling out, breathing, then coming back after the picture changes, market state changes. I purposely will miss some of the first moves that are happening in order to obtain more data about what's going on. I look for understanding first, not clicking buttons. So yes, she has entered a trade and she's already done her job for the London session, okay? So breathe, man. Yeah, Monka, the only time I slam 100 full contracts is when my account is in 7-figure waters, which was the case during COVID. So until I get to 7 figures, I will not be slamming 100 contracts anywhere, okay? And in the meantime, we try to buy other assets, right? We don't just trade and keep that in the account. We take that out, buy a house, or, put it in some stocks, in ETFs, or, pension funds. Just don't keep it in your account. Does Topstep X have footprint charts? No, it does not, sadly. I mean, I don't use footprint, I use TPOs and bookmap, but yeah, it's all similar. Whatever floats your boat. All right, so let's see. My algo shows a sell order, Ultimate Gamer says. On what? Yeah, I just love when people are like, I have an algorithm, it shows a sell. In which market? Like, more information is generally appreciated. Benjamin says, thanks, Dee. Yes, I got impatient on Friday, as I was within 700 of passing my combine and ended up at my daily loss limit of minus 1K instead. Have to slowly build it back up again. Yeah, this is the rushing. This is your dopamine getting ahead of you and just causing a lot of trouble. So the thing with dopamine influx, dopamine squirt that we get, the closer that you get to your goal, the more your dopamine levels increase. And then what does that do for us? In any other profession, extra dopamine increases motivation and productivity. In this line of work, dopamine increases overtrading tendencies. So it's the worst thing for us. If you watch Dr. Brett Steenbarger, somebody asked him how much dopamine should be involved in our profit and loss decisions. And he said, ideally, none at all. Now, we all realize that that's a very, very big thing to achieve, to be able to stay completely cool, calm, and collected. Doesn't matter what's going on. But I've worked pretty hard on that. Not that I did have a bit of an advantage that I'm not the most emotional person in the world, okay? In fact, many people who know me personally, they are a little bit shocked at how much I don't react to things. And I have my own theory, I've been called names like psychopath, how come you don't have emotions? Why are you not reacting more to this? Or, something happens and I'm just like, okay, yeah, it's a bit of a difficult time, but I'm not going to be, breaking down, over dramatizing the situation. And people around me have perceived that as not a normal emotional response. But I think it's down to the way my life has been. If you don't know, I was born and raised in Serbia. Now, we had civil wars throughout my teenage years, right? So when you are sort of 11, 12, and you get faced with the possibility of losing your home, running for your life, things like that. That never happened to me because I was in Belgrade, and it wasn't really until 1999 that I actually experienced, a warlike state because NATO bombed us. So yes, I've been through that. And it was a terrifying experience. I remember one time I was at the top floor of my house. I'm a young person, I had success in my life and stuff, but, I was still a young person. And I heard this huge hissing sound that was chilling to the bone, right? And I could hear the explosion somewhere. But and you know how they say, oh, your whole life goes through like flashes before your eyes. No, all I could think of was when I thought that was it. Literally, it was, and that was it. Like, I didn't have my life flashing in front of my eyes, nothing. It was just like this kind of freeze moment. And then just thinking, okay, I'm dying now. This is pretty much it. And that was a bit of a, eye-opening experience that whatever people told you about, near-death situations and all that, everybody has their own experience, obviously, but mine was that I totally went numb to everything, and you almost kind of detach yourself from anything that can hurt you in life. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have a lowered emotional response. It's not that I'm a psychopath, it's just that my life experience has taught me to, how would I put this? To have a higher threshold for what should elicit an emotional reaction. Let's put it that way. Now, trading, for me, is just a bit of money. Even if it's a lot of money, it's still not a life or death situation in my case, right? It's just a bit of cash bopping up and down. Now, obviously, a bit of cash for many different people will have a different implication. Some people think that, $350 is a lot of cash. Some people think that 10,000 is not a lot of cash, right? Now, I'm probably the one in the camp of, 10K won't get you anywhere. I'm more in line of, a couple of million does something for you. But, Muhammad had this hilarious writing on his wall that said, sometimes all you need is just $1 billion. So I'm probably more in that sort of camp than I am in, let's get like $200. Like $200 to me just means nothing. In London, you pop your head out the door. You don't spend money on anything. Somehow you've already spent £200, let alone, $200. So, I probably have a slightly different way of having a relationship with money and all of that than some people. And, that helps. Like, I can't say that it's not going to help. It does help because it makes you more relaxed about your trading decisions. So anytime I see somebody who's like living on the breadline, check to check, paycheck to paycheck, I'm always saying to them, find another job, right? Find some kind of a day job, find a side hustle. Don't make trading your side hustle, because if you are plagued by fear and doubt, you can't make good trading decisions. You can't even make good financial decisions, let alone trading. And trading is financial decisions on steroids. Everything happens so quickly. In day trading, you have no time that goes by from the mistake and a slip up to getting financially punished for it. It's very unforgiving. Okay, and intraday trading in particular, very sensitive to any sort of inconsistencies you have. I'm finally awake, guys. This is the time that it happens. My brain is kicked into gear. Yay. That took a while. Whenever you are making mistakes in your life outside of trading, you typically have a time that, there's time that goes by from the moment you make the mistake to the consequence of that mistake. In trading, there's no time. Everything happens instantaneously. So is it then odd that it pokes into all of our self-limiting beliefs that we all have? We all harbor negative, inner critic, self-limiting beliefs. I probably have less of those than most people because I was always crazy. People always told me that what I want to do is impossible. And I would just be like, yeah, thanks. I'm going to do what I think I should do. And I always, put my head through the wall to reach my goals. So if there's a will, there's a way. But at the same time, you do have to look at your financial situation in your life. If you want to be a money manager, which is basically what we're doing, take a look at how you are in your private life. How are you managing your own personal finances? Is that a mess? Well, if that's a mess, if you're not managing your personal finances correctly, how the hell are you going to manage this? It's impossible until you change your ways in your life. Pay off that credit card debt, okay? Try not to buy stupid things that you don't need. I see people with new phones all the time. What the hell do you need a new phone for? Do you use it for work? Do you absolutely require the most newest, shiniest iPhone now? Why? Just because some other person has it. Hey, I had the same phone for about 3-4 years. Why? Because it worked, because I didn't need a new one, and it was fine. It was a phone, right? But then when that phone broke, that's when I buy new phones, when they break. So now I have a flashing new phone, but even this one is now coming up to 1 year old. Am I going to go and get the newest Samsung Z Fold 6 just because it's out? I don't care. I'm going to use this one until it still works, right? And then I'm going to get a new one, whether that's, in 2 years, 3 years, tomorrow, it depends how long the phone is working. So I don't buy stupid stuff that I don't need. Similar with cars, if you don't have a couple of million, 3 million, 5 million, just don't buy stupid cars. Don't spend $250,000 on a McLaren, right? Just don't, because that's a car, and yes, it's a sports car, so it does hold value more than some other cars, but still, that's a waste of time if you don't have a house. Say, buy a house first, man. What are we doing here? Paul H. says, I've just reached out to Tim, so it'll be over to you. Yeah, Tim and I already spoke about this. This is why I was like, yeah, we should get Paul H. over. Okay, so let's go to some other questions. Which 3 moving averages are you using here? Is it a different indicator? No, it's just 3 9 EMAs that are... So this is something that's helped me a lot. Mohammed uses it, actually. That's where I got it from. Initially, I only used one single 9 EMA, which is, good enough. But I found that having 3 of them on a low time frame helps me with timing my own entries better. I don't use it in the same way that Mohammed does. I literally just use it to time the entries. So everything else that I find levels-wise, market sentiment, market state, that all stands. And then just to kind of time the entry better, I will look at the 3 moving averages, the little ribbon here. So what is it? It's just 3 9 EMAs set to different calculation times. So the top one calculates it on the high, middle one calculates it on the close, and bottom one calculates it on the low. So therefore, they will never cross over. Okay, so I don't want them crossing over. I want the price crossing over them, but I don't want crisscross of the moving averages for this particular purpose. So that's just a timing tool for me. It does not tell me the level. It does not tell me anything other than the timing entry to my trade. Christopher says, hi, Coach D, do you consider today's NY session jolts job openings, news, high impact? I would probably say that it's medium impact. And yes, I would close any position into the release. So I wouldn't hold it through the release because it is a medium impact release. But after the release, go nuts, man. Do whatever. If you find a momentum trade, awesome. I don't personally like trading news. I actually spent my entire career not trading news, and I did pretty well for myself. So each to their own. You have Rips, who's a momentum trader, and he trades a couple of minutes after the release. However, the prop firms that I worked at back in the day, really up until a few years ago, they had a rule that you can't trade around those releases for at least 15 minutes. So not only can you not hold the trades through, unless it's like a swing trade, it's a third of your position, and it's already 200, 300 ticks in profit. That's different. They did allow that in some of the prop firms. But we can't hold swing trades like that. We can't carry over because of overnight margins and all of that. So yeah, I will definitely be flat for that. In fact, I will probably finish this session, then go do something else, and then come back after 9 a.m. Eastern to see whether I've got any more setups. And then if not, I'm just gonna call it a day. I may not trade more today, but we'll see. It all depends how things are looking. All right. Benjamin also says, need to be particularly careful on days after a good trading day as well. Overconfidence causes bad trades. Yeah, I've had that happen to me too. In fact, 2 years into my career as an independent trader, I built up an account of 70K, then got superly biased on one stupid trade, and I lost it all. So that was my first blown up account. I didn't even know what a margin call was before then. All right. Benjamin says also, was using my old laptop for full... okay. But for work, I don't skimp. I will make that perfectly clear. For gadgets, I don't care much for them. But for work, I always spend top dollar. Everything that I have here, 4 screens, the chair, the desk, everything is top of the line because my laptops and stuff, I do not want anything breaking. This is my work. And if I don't have a reliable machine, that causes a bottleneck, right? If I have a slow laptop from a million years ago, I'm not going to be able to run Bookmap, NinjaTrader, MetaTrader 5, have a million tabs open, video streaming, all of that. It's going to choke, right? That's going to cause a problem in my work. So for work, I never skimp. But if your work is not 100% trading and, videos, coaching people, all of that, software development like we have, then probably not needed. However, for me specifically, because this is, something that I do all day long, I absolutely spend top dollar on the computers. The stronger the better, maybe not go for the shiniest thing, but for me the specs are very, very important. So I need to have sufficient RAM memory, very, very strong processing power, good graphics card. So yeah, it's down to your needs ultimately. But yeah, just, put it in perspective. If it's a gadget that you don't really need, then probably don't go for it. So Tom says, can you expand on using the 9 EMAs for timing? Okay, so we've gone a little bit over, but hey, I've just woken up, so let's stay with you guys a little bit longer, and then we're gonna finish it up. All right, so for example, if let's say that I had a level, I'm trying to find a good example. Let's go to platinum, maybe. All right, so platinum. I'm just seeing what looks the best. All right, so platinum, let's say that I'm looking for failed auction in platinum. Just for reference, I do have those levels up here. We popped outside of the initial balance and trying to go back into it now. So let's hypothesize, I'm not going to trade this, but let's hypothesize that I'm looking for a failed auction here. So my entry based on based on the 9 EMA ribbon would be to wait until we fall underneath all 3 of them, okay? And then I will be like, okay, I need this to sustain. So effectively, I'm looking for a very, very early trend reversal and a momentum push outside of the ribbon. And similarly, if I'm looking for longs, like if you look here, we had the test of VWAP, okay? Then we had a push outside, and then we effectively ran the trade. That was the trade that I took, right? So actually, let me maybe put executions there so we can see that. Here we go. So that was the entry, right? So I did go at VWAP and I did add into it, and then I just ran it all the way up. Just by accident, it actually started to slow down and sort of dance on the line. But that's the idea. So if you're looking to time your trade better, in fact, I think I was timing it using this one and then went into a bit of drawdown. I can't quite remember. Again, my stupid brain doesn't work that early in the morning. But yeah, it's basically down to looking at the momentum above or below the ribbon as your timing tool. Now, whether you have a further push up, I was pretty sure about this trade, primarily because it was a VWAP bounce. Platinum loves VWAP bounces, and I had some levels higher up. I actually still have a level at 65 that might be of interest to me for a short. But obviously Platinum likes to trend a lot. So sometimes what tends to happen is that they just overshoot. So I do need to wait to see what actually happens around 65. Maybe there's a trade there, short later on in the day. Maybe not, we'll see. But that's just like the basic explanation of how I use these timing tools, or I call them timing tools. So they're not levels or anything. They're just literally telling you when the momentum is there on a super, super low time frame, and when we sort of finish the run up. What I'm seeing here right now, like for example, let me make this bigger. We're still inside the ribbon, so there's no turnaround yet. So for me, this would keep me outside of the failed auction potential. So until we have a dedicated, strong move down that closes a candle, at least one candle closes below it, that's my entry, right? If I don't see that, and I see this meandering lower, that's not good enough for me. And as long as we stay inside the ribbon or slightly above it, again, no play. So I need a decisive one candle movement in order to say, yep, there's enough momentum here, let's jump in. That causes less drawdown generally if you time and use the right levels and stuff. But it's not going to save you if you don't already have good levels. It's not going to be like, oh my God, Dee told us this amazing thing about the momentum. It's not going to save you. You still have to have good levels, right? This is just a timing tool to try and minimize any drawdown upon entry. And if you're wrong, let's say that you're a little bit high on hopium. So you're like, oh, I really want to short this. And then you short it ahead of time. Well, you know that you're going to suffer much more of a drawdown than just waiting for the price action to show you the way. So I'm all about as less guesswork as possible. And just like any other trader, I keep refining my entries and my style of trading. That will never end. The day that I stop evolving is probably the day that I should just quit trading altogether and go do some knitting or something. Because I will be old then, presumably. But I don't know, maybe like Coach Jack. He is John JD's father, right? He's 83, I think. And he trades corn, right? So maybe that's what I'll be doing, trading corn. But I certainly won't be trading super fast instruments that require a lot of mental agility and stuff. But there will be something to do, However, I want to keep evolving. I want to keep learning. I learn from every single person that's on TopstepTV, right? Whenever I'm talking to Coach Jay, whenever I see Mohammed, whenever I'm on with Anne-Marie, whenever I'm on with Coach Ray. And even though I taught Coach Ray a lot of the stuff, I find that I learn things from him because he's had now, 4 years of experience, and he's moved on his style of trading. So it's endlessly fascinating to me and exciting to keep learning from all of these awesome people, right? That's what we're here for. All right. Are you looking for longs on oil? So not at the moment, Sarah, primarily because we have a lot of positive delta building. And I don't like seeing that if we don't have the movement that is also conducive to that. So what I'm thinking is that maybe they want to get everybody long before they go short again at some point. So to me, this is conflicting information and I need more data. So I'm probably going to wait for much later in the day to run any possible trades. And I might even leave this account where it is and then maybe go to my other two. And yes, I did name one of them Coffee, the other one Hulk, and the third one Mirage, for the days when you're seeing things and you need an XFA just for that purpose. All right, guys, let me see if I've got any plugs for you. So Trustpilot, yes, obviously, please give me a like as well. I would highly appreciate that if you found any value in what I was yapping on about today. It helps me to keep growing. And don't forget, these sessions are going to be an hour earlier this week only. And if you're in the UK or EU, because we changed our clocks earlier than the US, so we're now in this weird out of sync moment. But yeah, so click the like button, doesn't cost you anything, takes a second, and it helps me a lot. Let's also drop the Trustpilot link, because like any company in this day and age, we rely on reviews, on other people's opinions to tell others their experience with TopStep. So please do a short review on Trustpilot. We would really appreciate that. Doesn't have to be too long, just, one line, that's cool, and we will thank you for it. And obviously join us on Discord if you're looking for trading buddies, if you're looking for more information. Check out TopStep Discord. I don't really use Discord all that much, and if I am, I'm using it for QueryBot on MentorQ. But yeah, check out Discord community. They do have some pretty awesome channels. I know that most of the coaches have done so much work, and there's always classes in there. You can always find something. And yeah, so I think that's going to be it for the day. We're going to be here tomorrow. I'm just trying to think of what my schedule is. I think I'm on Thursday on Trade with TopStep, and then again on Friday with Anne-Marie. I don't know whether we're going to be doing Power Hour or not. I'm still I'm still trying to get that information. But yes, so my schedule this week is going to be my London sessions Monday through Thursday, and then also Thursday and Friday. Aaron is asking me, do you do ultra bonds? I don't do any fixed income. I hate fixed income. It's too slow. It only moves when there's like monetary policies going on. So that's not my jam. If you want to do spreads and stuff, that's a great market, but it's a no for me. I'm going to leave you with that today. Thank you for being with me. I really appreciate it. Amazing questions. This is why we stayed a bit longer. Join me tomorrow yet again. In the meantime, let's try to take it slow. It is the end of the month, so don't give all your profits back if you are in an XFA or in a live. Be a little bit more mindful with the amount of work that you've done to get there. That's it. I am Deeyana Angelo, and this has been TopStepTV. Take care.